Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. I'm Sarah Jane. This is Gift of Healing TV. Welcome to this week's program. I have enormous pleasure in welcoming our guest this week, Junie Moon Schreiber, who's actually, it's morning for her and it's evening for me because we're in different parts of the world, and that's what I love about technology. So let me introduce a little Junie to you, and then we're going to hear from her. Junie Moon Schreiber helps people create a life that is passionate, authentic, and fulfilling by teaching them how to turn down the volume on their inner critic, which allows them the freedom to do whatever they dream possible. She is a certified shadow work facilitator, transformational coach, co-author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Journey to Joy, and host of the Life Out Loud TV show. Junie Moon absolutely adores seeing people embrace life fully, bringing them better jobs, healthier relationships, and massive joy. Her clients step powerfully into their soul purpose with grace and ease. Junie, welcome to the program, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and spend time with you and share what I know about this interesting character called the inner critic.
Brilliant. I must admit, I've never heard it called the inner critic before.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to this. But before we get into that, what I'd love you to do is share a little bit about yourself, your story, and how you got into doing this.
Okay, well, first of all, I think that's so interesting. Just the inner critic. We talk about that a lot here. I'm curious what you guys call those voices in your head that have you question who you are and how great you are. Do you have a name for that?
I think sort of monkey mind.
Monkey mind.
Yeah, so that I've heard it called many things. It's the inner critic bit I haven't heard before, but yeah, I guessed it was the same thing.
Yeah. No, I was just curious. Like, that's interesting. Okay, so how did I get here? Well, like everybody, I've had my journey, and I had some pain, a lot of pain along the way. Life experience, human journey, and so some of the things that I've tackled along the way was big feelings of inadequacy, fear of being seen. I was bullied a lot as a kid, and that had me be very careful to not be too big, too bright, too seen. And so my energy, my being really got very, very tiny. At least it felt like that. People still saw whatever they saw, but inside I was really terrified of being me. I thought I was too big, too bright. I also was scared of disappointing people. I had these great parents that loved me so much, and the last thing I wanted to do was fall short in their eyes. And so as time went on, I just got so uncomfortable with me, just allowing myself to be me. I always felt like I had to be something else or do something for approval to be okay. By the time I got to high school, I couldn't even raise my hand in class because I was terrified that if I spoke up, someone in the back of the class would say something and I would be terribly embarrassed. And, cliff notes of my crazy childhood. And so as I went on, I learned how to handle my life by eating a lot of food and shoving down my discomfort with Oreo cookies and lots of sugar. And I would go up and down the scale 40, 50 pounds at a time, many times through my life. So I was handling my life. I was micromanaging my life the best I could. And from the outside, it looked like I had my stuff together. But inside, I was so uncomfortable, so sad, and in my fear, very anxious. And I kept pushing that aside until I realized that it had a hold of me. It was impacting my health. It was impacting my relationships. It was impacting how I could be a mother to my child, which was really the cry. I haven't slept. I haven't slept. And my inner critic's going, see, you're messing up already. Shut up. I have a cold, for some of you that know that or didn't know that. So so I got to the crossroads, which was what I was going to say, with my son. And here I was, 200 pounds, miserable, edgy. That was not the mother I wanted to be. That was not the way I wanted to be. So I started therapy, and I started learning about why I was wired the way I was. I started doing all the self-help books and workshops, and I got some really great understanding, really good tools for seeing why I acted the way I did, why I was eating the way I was, and all those things. But it still didn't shift me or hold in the way that that helped me have a life of ease and being able to show up fully to the people in my life. And that led me to the work that I'm doing now, which is shadow work and some other things. It's kind of an integration of lots of things. But through those years of feeling so horrible, I started working on myself, finding deep healing, and it brought me where I am today, which is a pretty awesome life.
Thank you so much for sharing, because there are so many of us, and I can relate to so much of what you've said.
Mm-hmm.
I really can. And I think that there's going to be loads of people out there that can. There's no two ways about it. And just to say hi to Patricia, who's in La Paz in Mexico. She's joined us. So lovely to have you with us. And anybody else who wants to let us know you're there, please do. So, yeah, I mean, I can so relate. So you refer to this as the inner critic. I mean, actually, I tend to prefer to refer to it really as sort of your ego, your mind, rather than heart. So so what brought, can you share a little bit about what brought you to that aspect, to the inner critic side of things, and how that, we've got Karen in Paris as well with us.
Ooh, this is fun.
We're spreading all over the world here. So a little bit how you came to this, because I understand what you're saying. You work with many different things, you learn different things, and then though there are a lot of us that we're bringing in aspects of the many things that we learn, and we're creating what works for us and helping people to use those things and adjust them accordingly for them.
Yep. Great question. So the work I do, shadow work, we look at the person and see all the different voices that are going on inside of them. It's not just the inner critic. We see that there's lots of different parts inside of us. There's the part that knows our value and really knows our heart and what our mission is and how we shine in the world and our gifts. You know, we have the part that takes a stand for ourselves, that warrior aspect that says, this is me, this is you, this is acceptable, this isn't acceptable. So we have all these parts. At the end of the day, what I found is a great way to start with people, that is almost an entrance way to seeing the cast of characters in someone's life, is finding those voices that really take us out of the game, the voices that have us question, our abilities, make us doubt ourselves, make us feel less than, and so the inner critic, that part of us that criticizes, that makes us stop and limits us from having these amazing lives, or opening our hearts up to another person, or even deciding to go up to our boss and say, hey, I need a raise. But that inner critic says, no, you're not good enough. You don't deserve it. And then we get stuck or paralyzed, or we end up in a box of cookies, and everything in the middle. And so I just found that this was a really potent place to start with people, to see what this part is about. And as we created this presentation, it was not just what is the inner critic, but how do we get it to be our ally? How do we get it to work with us? And that seems so like, really, can we actually do that? And what I have found with all of the parts is each part is serving us in some way. There might be a cost in how it's showing up in our life, just like the inner critic might be having some of the messages causing some behaviors that are really hurting us in some way, or keeping us from the very things we want. But at the end of the day, it's there for a reason. And so with the inner critic, or any of the cast of characters, when we start to peel back the layers of what this part of us is wanting for us and how it's trying to get it for us, sometimes there's some cross wiring. And so my IC, my big inner critic is a protector for me, is a watcher for me. And I had to bring this part up to speed that I'm an adult, not a child anymore. And so that, seriously, like, oops, wait a second. I'm not 9 years old and terrified that, you know, if I say the wrong thing, my mother's not going to love me, because that's how it felt inside. You know, my mom is she's such a dear, dear friend and amazing mom to me. And we have a great relationship now. But back then, she would just look at me, and I know my mom's watching. Hi, Mom. And, you know, she would just look at me with a look, you know, because maybe I didn't do something in the way that she wanted me to do it. And it may not have been a big deal to her, but inside, I thought, oh my God, I messed up. And now she's not going to love me. Something's wrong with me. I have to try harder, 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 harder. And so the inner critic comes and says, see, you messed up. You have to try harder. And the people-pleasing person inside of me was born. So that's what I help people with, to start with, which is what's getting in their way. What are some of those messages that make you feel like crap and keep you stuck, and why? And let's change that so you can actually have a full life.
Absolutely. And this just listening to you, it's just absolutely, I am not that child anymore. You don't need to protect me in the way that you used to. And that was perfect then. But it's not now. I'm an adult.
Right. It was perfect then. Thank you. I mean, that's a big piece of the work, is having compassion for ourselves, for the part that really did do this to us, you know, this part that kept us from the very things we want, because it was trying to keep us safe. We were trying to keep us from feeling more pain. And so back then, yay, thank God I had this part. But now, shut up or work with me or something, because this isn't, and I look over because I talk to this part, and it, you know, it's inside of me, it's outside of me, but I talk to this part. I have a relationship with this part, so that when it's telling me in my head, oh, wow, you're going to mess up today. Because I had this little voice in my head today, oh my God, you have a cold, you're not going to be thinking straight, you know. And I started laughing. I started laughing instead of coming to this presentation going, oh my God, I'm so scared I'm going to mess up, because that's how it used to be. And I wouldn't have been able to be present at all.
And I love it. And it is so about working with every aspect of ourselves. Yeah. It isn't about saying get lost, because it can't. We've got, yeah, I mean, I've had it brought to me in a different way, but this is about how you work, and this is what this is about. And I'd just like to say hi to Nikki from Sussex, another one of our regulars. So that's brilliant. We've got 3 of our regulars. Let us know they're here. And folks, do let us know you're here. And it's great. We've got a lovely little spread around the world at the moment. So we'd love to know who you are and where you are. And if you've got any questions, please, for Junie, or any comments you'd like to make, please do type them in. And share them, because, you know, we've got Junie's going to share with us how to do this sort of briefly, and I know that there's a free ebook that she's going to talk about as well that you can get, which has got this written in it. But obviously, I don't know about you, but me, I like to see somebody show me how to do it rather than just have it in written words.
Yeah.
So if there's anything more you need to share before we start, otherwise, if you could sort of start the interactive element, and folks, please join in.
So there's one thing you said, well, you're saying a lot of wonderful things, but there's one thing that I wanted to mention, how you said it's about not getting rid of it. I think that's such a big piece to it. We're not trying to get rid of anything. I mean, that's what's given us the problem to begin with, is we're trying to cut off pieces of who we are. We're trying to not be certain ways. And that takes a lot of energy to hold back who we are. And there's nothing, in my opinion, wrong at all with who we are. We're just energy. We're just beings, you know, soul coming through body. However, because of our experiences that have shaped us, we have made decisions that some of these characteristics or ways of being were not acceptable. You know, whether we were taught it by our parents, whether we were taught it by society, or the experiences. And so we made good decisions. Like you said, back then, I better not raise my voice because I'll get punished or hit. I better not shine too much because somebody might point me out and embarrass me. So is there anything wrong with speaking up? No. Is there anything wrong with shining? No. However, the energy of it is pure, but maybe how we saw it and used it in the past, maybe we saw it used improperly and we said, ooh, I'm never going to be like that. Or maybe we showed up in a certain way and we were like, you can't be like that, young lady. And we were, oh, I better never speak up again. And so there's nothing wrong with the energy per se. It's how we use it. And so the work is about taking back all of who we are in a way that we have control over that energy. We have a say in how we want to use it so that we're not cutting people's heads off and we're not shriveling up. We are just fully who we are in our, my opinion, perfection. So so I have a tool. It's a way to talk to our inner critic. We all have one. And if you guys, if you're thinking that you don't have one, you'll figure it out. you'll start to go, oh, you'll start to say, that's my inner critic. And so there's this tool about beginning this dialogue with this part. And it is in my ebook. I have an ebook called How to Tame Your Inner Critic. And like Sara said, there's something about being shown it versus reading it. But it is a workbook. And so we're going to skim over it. You'll get a sense of what it's about, how it might look. I really invite you to do it with me. I'm going to slow it down so that you could hear me do it for myself, but you can actually take a moment and breathe and ask yourself those questions and actually do it with me and see what comes up. But it's all in the ebook, and we're going to skim, but you'll have a sense. So first we need to start with, before we go into the tool, which is, what is it you want? How do you want to be? How would you like to show up in your life? And what's getting in the way? So I'll just use myself as an example. I mean, let me take a breath. Let me just kind of check in here. And I invite you guys to check in. What is it you really want? How do you want to feel? How do you want to show up in your life? How do you want to be with relationships, with work, with your health? So I want to feel grounded. I want to come from a place of heart. I want to come from a place of service. I want to feel confident and strong to shine and to bring my gifts to the world. So that's what I want. So what gets in my way? So ask yourself, what gets in your way? What gets in my way sometimes is a voice that used to be really, really loud, and maybe your voice is really loud, maybe it's not, but a voice that used to be like screaming in my head, you're not good enough. Who do you think you are? You can't do that. There are other people way better. Who do you think you are to go on Gift of Healing TV? There's so many better people out there. You need to go and get 10 more degrees. You don't have enough, right? And believe me, guys, I have 1 million degrees. It's just like, is it ever enough? But there was, so that piece in the past used to really take me out of the game. It's a tiny little voice now. But what's the message you get? What do you tell yourself that has you play small or scared or limit yourself in the way you want to be? And so I'll use that as an example of, who do you think you are? You're not good enough. So that's the voice that I would hear. And so let's do the tool then. So as I demonstrated, if you're looking, I'm just going to turn to acknowledge I'm in one part, and then turn to acknowledge I'm in another part. But you could actually do this with 2 chairs if you want. But you could actually just do it with your eyes closed and just shift. But if you have 2 chairs, you could actually sit in a chair and say, okay, I'm Junie. And then you could go sit in the next chair if you had another chair and say, I'm the inner critic. So for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to turn my head. So I'm going to envision my inner critic over here. So hi, inner critic. I hear you tell me that I'm not good enough sometimes, and I'd like to talk to you. Is that okay? So ask your inner critic, is it okay to talk? Get permission. This is not about yelling at it. It's not about making it bad or wrong. Be curious about this part of you that shows up and see what it says. So, inner critic. Yes, I'm happy to talk with you. So, inner critic. So you sometimes tell me I'm not good enough. Sometimes I feel very scared to show up in my life because I feel like I'm going to fall short, and it's because of the messages that you send my way. And I'm just curious, how long have you been in my life? When did you show up and why? So ask your inner critic that question, and then sit with the inner critic and see what the inner critic has to say. So, Junie, I showed up probably when you were about 8, 9 years old, about 4th grade, because that's when you started getting picked on. That's when you started really feeling like, if you didn't follow the rules or if you fell short, that you wouldn't be loved. And so I showed up at that point in your life. And you might even notice my voice changed. And I didn't do that on purpose. It just happens. Okay, so, and I'm back in me. Okay, so you showed up when I was like in 4th grade and I was getting bullied. All right, so, but why did you show up? I don't get it. What was the reason for you to tell me that I wasn't good enough? Why would you do that? I'm confused because it made me scared. So again, inner critic. And this is real time, guys. I'm really doing this with you. So I showed up because if I didn't tell you to be careful, to watch what you say, to be better, because I was always telling you you're not good enough, I wanted you to be better. I wanted you to be seen and not be harmed. I wanted you to shine for your parents. I wanted you to not be picked on. So I kept telling you you weren't good enough and that, that something was wrong with you so that you would actually keep working on being better. So I'm back in me. So I'm hearing that your strategy was to have me be loved and have me be safe. Okay, I get that. And I want to thank you actually for being there and helping me through, because if you weren't there, and you might even ask yourself, guys, what would have happened if you didn't have the inner critic? If you weren't there, well, you know what? Let me ask you, inner critic, if you didn't show up, what do you think would have happened? Well, then you might have kept being your big bubbly self and the kids would have kept picking on you because you had this big energy and you stood out. And if you didn't try so hard, you may not have gotten really great grades, and maybe your parents would have been harder on you. And I didn't want that. I wanted you to feel safe and loved. So if I wasn't there, I think things might have been really, really hard for you. So again, I see that you were in service to keep me safe, to have me feel loved and not be picked on. So thank you for being there. Without you, I probably would have gotten way picked on, way more. And it was hard enough as it was. So by telling me those messages and keeping me small and keeping my light dimmer, I didn't stand out as much, and therefore I wasn't picked on as much. So I thank you, because I see that it was a big job. It was very risky back then. The thing is, though, that that now I still have you in my head. And not as much now, because you and I have been talking a long time, but for purposes of this demonstration, let's just say it's 10 years ago in the past. 10 years ago, you were still wreaking a lot of havoc in my life by really taking, having me think I just was so far from being okay. And it was costing me greatly. And so we started talking, didn't we? Yes, because 10 years ago, I realized that you were 41, you were an adult, you had tools, you had support, and you were different. You didn't need me to do the job I did like I did back then. So yes, you and I have had talks about this before, and things have changed for us, right? Yes, they have, because now you and I talk, and if you do overdo, or if you start to scare me a little bit, I remind you that I'm 51 now, and that I'm on a mission, and that life is important to me. And when you have me scared or fearful of shining my light, that I don't get to feel happy. I don't get to connect in the way that I know you want me to. I mean, ultimately, Inner Critic, you want me to feel love and be loved and have a great life and be happy. And so, yeah, you and I have been talking for years now, and you know now that by telling me I'm not good enough doesn't work. And so you've been lowering your volume for me to help me. And I really want to thank you for changing your strategies. In fact, not only have you changed your strategies, what we've discussed is ways that you could support me, right? Yeah, absolutely. Because instead of me having you scared about doing presentations, I now have you do a checklist and say, did you get this accomplished? Are you set for this? Is this in place? Because I want you to succeed. I found out as your inner critic that by telling you you're not good enough, there was great cost, and you weren't stepping into the empowered way that I wanted you to, or the way you wanted to. And then I realized that I could work with you in a different way by saying, hey, are you ready? And then we would talk and do those steps. And I thank you so much for being there for me. And we've had a great relationship. So it wasn't about firing you. It was about having a conversation with you, having you see where I'm at now, and honoring you for all the work you've done, and to give you a new job description so you don't have to work so hard. And I thank you for that. So I'm just going to stop there. I mean, that's kind of the taste, and I kind of went around a little back and forth, but the idea is to see, well, to start a conversation with this part, and it might seem a little strange for people at first. I mean, sometimes people journal the parts, you know, me, inner critic, me, inner critic, and we get access to the unconscious by doing that, by asking the inner critic separate from ourself, what was happening? Why did you do it? What were the consequences? What were your fears? And then by telling the inner critic thank you, which is of course giving compassion to ourselves for the strategies we've been picking up along the way. I mean, how many times have we beaten ourselves up because we stopped ourselves from shining, or not going to that interview, or saying yes to being on Gift of Healing TV, you know? I mean, it could have happened. It could have happened, you know? And so how do we work with this part so that it doesn't keep us from our dreams? Because at the end of the day, we are here for a reason. This is my belief system. We're here for a reason. We have our gifts. I believe we all have our soul purpose. And this human experience sometimes messes things up, and messes things up in the way that we need to clean up the old programming, because there's nothing wrong or messy. I mean, there's nothing bad that's happening. I believe there's nothing, we're perfect, and we're exactly where we need to be. And with awareness, we could shift things. And this is an amazing tool to start with, to see why we do what we do, and to bring ourselves up to speed with deep compassion for the choices we've made in the past, realizing the past is the past, and now how can we be in the present and make our life different? I mean, that's the opportunity here. How can we show up fully? And things have changed. My inner critic is so not the crazy person it used to be.
And absolutely. And folks, if you've got any questions following that, please do. Because, yeah, I look at it because I was listening to some of the comments that you were making, and those not good enough. It's almost as if somebody has said, and the problem is it could have been a throwaway comment by somebody.
Yep.
You know, you haven't done that very well. And as a child, we see things very much in the black and white to me. You're either good or you're no good. There isn't any middle ground of sort of, and what we've all got to realize is we have strengths and we have those things we aren't so good at. So concentrate on your strengths. But people are very, very good at highlighting what you're not good at rather than what you are good at. And of course, that's where your inner critic, your ego, your whatever you want to call it, that part of you that is is put there to protect you has taken on board what you other people say, and you've taken on board their stuff, because as we get older, we realize actually it's got nothing to do with us. It's what's going on in their lives. And of course, our inner critic just falls straight back into that old habit of believing what other people are saying about us, when actually we should have all by now learnt it's got nothing to do with us.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, whether someone said we weren't good enough or implied we weren't good enough, or we just got the message somewhere along the line that something was wrong with us, then it's inside of us. You know, it's the experience we had. And when people come and work with me with shadow work, it's so interesting because, you know, here are all these parts. Oh yeah, my mom told me this, my dad told me this, this was the message I got, but they're not here. All the kids that bullied me, they're not here. They're inside of me now. And so what's done is done, but what's inside of me is still running, these tapes, these old stories. And once we could shine light on them and also see what's risky about really embracing all of who we are, because there might be some risk, you know, about that we could focus on what isn't good about us versus what is. There's some risk in saying, look at me, look what I can do. The risk being maybe I will find out that I'm not as great at this or that. Maybe I'll fail, right? So again, that's where that protection part comes in. You know, well, let's just keep focusing on what you can't do. So we never find out if you really can do that. And of course, I don't really believe in failure. I believe it's just information so that we can rise up even more into who we are. But yeah, all these people, all these messages are inside of us, and then we just got to clean it up because they're not even here anymore, but we took it on.
Well, absolutely. And it's not even, there's no such thing as failure. No such thing at all as failure. Edison, what did it take him? 10,000 different experiments to get the light bulb to work. And you can either take those failures and put them in a rucksack and carry them around with you, or you can put them as a stepping stone in front of you. Yeah. You've only just got to look at some of these brilliant bits of wisdom that are shared on the social media today. Yes. And there is some amazing wisdom out there, and we should all really be reading those, listening to them, taking them on board, because there's some brilliant stuff out there to help us to bring our inner critic back to being that true part of us that supports us with our life purpose.
Yep. There is so much out there. And, you know, the first place is awareness that, you know, maybe we're not as happy as we'd like to be, or fulfilled as we'd like to be. And then to say, well, how might that happen? You know, what might I do? Or how can I be to have a different life? You know, I love so many of the messages out there, you know, what I believe is truth. You know, you're a child of God, you're a bright spirit, you're, you know, spirit having a human experience. All these things are wonderful, and they help us get in a state of yes and gratitude and blessing. And that's, to me, my professional opinion, and that's great. And there's another piece to it, the unconscious, because if underneath that I am a child of God and I'm perfect and beautiful and a bright spirit is, yeah, you don't matter, you know, you're never going to amount to anything, that old stuff, we need to look at that. And we can't always do that on our own. We need some perspective. We need some outside support. Reading is great. Workshops are great. I mean, my deepest healing has come from transformational coaches, transformational work, where someone was able to see what I can't see. I've worked hard. We've all worked hard to put things in shadow in that bag of I will never be, you know, I am never going to express. I'm never going to show up like this. We work hard to be okay. The thing is that we need to open up that bag of shadows. We need to do it in a safe way so that we really can become whole, or we are whole, but come whole back to the beauty, come back to the beingness that we're so meant to be. Because it leaks out. You know, we could say, I'm never going to be an angry person, and then somebody's head is rolling on the floor. You know, I'm always going to be sweet, sweet, sweet. And, you know, we try so hard. And at the end of the day, we just want to be loved. We just want to be accepted. We want to feel connection. I mean, that's what we're about. It's all about love. This work that I do is such spiritual work. It is about coming back to our soul purpose. It's cleaning off the soul. That's what I'm saying. There's gook on the soul from life experience. Let's show what's going on, see it, clean it up, and come back to our truth, because it's in each and every one of us. We've gotten sidetracked a little.
Oh, absolutely. And I genuinely believe we were all born perfect. Absolutely born perfect. And it's outside influences that have disrupted that perfection.
Yeah.
And it's helping us but we're having a human experience.
Yes.
We really are. And don't feel guilty about anything that you do. You can't make any mistakes. You can't do anything wrong. It's all part and parcel of the human experience. So don't try and get yourself out of that. Don't think that you haven't got to have any of that, because that's the blessing to me that we've been given. Our experiences, your experiences, have led you to work the way you work and to help people the way you work.
Yep.
The same with myself. The same with everybody that works. We've all come to what we do through our own experiences. We've all gone through the tough stuff. Yep. We all have to work with our inner critic, our ego, our monkey mind, the mind chatter, whatever you want to call it. We all have to learn to work with that aspect so that we can move forward. And to me, we have to learn to reconnect with those aspects we've cut off because of the inner critic.
You know, one of the things I think that's a slippery slope with us spiritual folk is sometimes, and I see this often, that we put our humanity into shadow. We shame ourselves for having a bad day or feeling scared or feeling sad, or, you know, it's like, if I'm only connected to spirit, I wouldn't feel this, you know, and there's some truth there, right? There is some truth there. And we're embodied. And if someone, you know, punches us, we feel pain. If we're sick, we, you know, like today I'm tired. It just is, you know. It's when we push against it and go, I need to work harder to connect to spirit so I can surrender. It's like, that's very intellectual. If we could drop into the heart and allow ourselves to have this human experience with deep compassion, to be able to know what you just said truly in our gut, that there are no mistakes, that we really are perfect, and everything in this moment is exactly how it's meant to be, to know that, to really know that, how freeing would that make your life? How free would we feel if, when, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse when that hits the fan, you know, to say, okay, you know, here it is. You know, a week ago, and I know we're close to time, but the week ago, I was on my couch and I was going through, you know, a little bit of a dark time. I have an issue with my son, and it hurts. It hurts. My human mommy heart hurts. And I just sat on my couch and I held my heart, and I just said, I'm really sad right now. This hurts. My human heart is feeling some pain. I didn't push it away. I allowed myself to be with it, to flow with it, to open to it, so it didn't have a hold on me, and it didn't have me in a box of cookies. And I allowed myself to be with the truth of the moment, and then be able to shift into the truth of what is, which is my belief that he has his path, I have my path, and it's okay. But there are those moments, those human experiences that sometimes just really take us to our knees. Can we allow ourselves to be there? Because that's where the healing is. And with good guidance, people like you and me, to help people see that this is precious. Being in the corridor before the door opens, the next door opens, that's precious incubation time. Can we allow ourselves to be in the discomfort a little bit before we blossom into the butterfly? But we are blossoming. We are the butterfly.
Absolutely. And Nikki says, yes. allow yourself to fail to grow. So it's not fail to grow, but fail so that you can grow.
Yeah, right.
Why is it so against my nature to do this?
Well, that comes back to what we were saying, which is we don't want to feel pain. None of us want to feel pain. I don't want to feel pain. So we're built for survival. That's our DNA. You know, if we're in a burning house, we might be having the best time of our life. Maybe we're having the best sex that we've ever had. But if that house is burning, we are bolting out of that house. The sex can wait, all right? We are meant to take care of ourselves and to protect ourselves the best we can. And so we're not built for, okay, let's have pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. So we're watching, we're being cautious. We don't want to take risks that we think are going to harm us. The cool thing is a lot of our wiring has us feel that there's a lot of risk out there if we really shoot for the stars. And when we start to peel back the layers of what's true and what's not true, the risks aren't as scary as the unconscious believes. And we could start to shine light on those very risks till we see, wow, it's more risky to not take those chances versus go for the gold.
Absolutely, but it also goes back to fear. False evidence appearing real.
Ding, ding, ding. Yes. And sometimes it is very scary.
Right, so we're coming towards the end of the program. Do you want, I'm going to put the link up for Junie's free gift, so you can go there. You will find it under her information on the About Us page on the Gift of Healing TV website for the next week. And tomorrow morning, once I can get to the YouTube video, I'll put it up under there as well. So folks, you will be able to find that. Junie, how long is that going to be available? And tell us a bit about it.
Well, it's an ebook / workbook. It's called How to Tame Your Inner Critic. And it's 10 steps that helps you unleash your soul purpose. It's a much more extended version of the mini thing I showed before. And that should, gosh, a few weeks at least. I don't know any time I'm taking it down for your show. So at least for the next few weeks or next few weeks it's up. It's up for a few weeks. And it's my gift to you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And don't just read it. Really do the workshop, the workbook, because that's where the gold is. That's where you'll really begin the relationship. So yeah, it's at tinyurl.com/tameitnow. That's the link for you to grab it. And yeah, it has a lot of content and it has the journey for you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. Have you got one last little thing that you'd like to share with folks before I wrap up?
Healing is possible. Transformation's possible. It's totally doable. My heart goes out to every single one of you that may not be living the fullest that you would like to live. And my strongest want for you is for you to shine your light. And if you're not shining your light, all of us don't get to see your beauty and you don't get to feel it. So shine your light, or find a way to have some deep compassion for the journey that you're on, and know that you are on a journey and that you don't have to do it alone, and that you are beautiful and perfect just the way you are. That's my leaving message.
Junie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, folks, for being here with us. Please do sort of help yourself to Junie's free gift. That do that. I found this really interesting. Thank you so much indeed. Next week, we are being joined by Chessie Roberts, and she's going to be sharing what to say when you talk to yourself and why it is important. And I think this is coming from a slightly different aspect than we've worked this week, but maybe this is just as well. It's great to have some continuity in some respects. So we're coming at it from all angles for you folks. So that's next week. And Chessie actually runs, just as Junie runs her own television program, Chessie runs her own online radio. I think that one's called Get on the Grid. So so it's great to have other folks who are out there as well, and we're all sort of mixing around in each other's programs. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Karen says, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. And Nikki says, ditto.
From my heart to yours.
So thank you very much indeed, folks. Very much appreciated that you've all been here, and especially to our guest, Junie Moon Schreiber. I look forward to seeing you again. Please do come back and join us another week. In the meantime, have a great week. Love, peace, and light to you all. Namaste.